Good morning, traders. Chris Buss here with Traders Profit Compass with your morning look at markets for Thursday, June 10th. Okay, the big, we wait the big number, right? We wait for CPI at 8:30. So yesterday we had a really choppy session, heading into this number. This morning, looking at futures, we're flat as a pancake, as you'd expect, as we await that print. Interesting that gold is down 0.6 and copper is down 1.5%. As we talked about yesterday, the catalyst for gold is going to be falling real yields. And of course, inflation is going to have an impact on that. We've seen falling bond prices. Everybody's scratching their head on why yields are falling across the curve. We had a really strong 3-year bond yield. What was that? Tuesday. We had a wildly successful 10-year bond auction yesterday, way oversubscribed, strongest it's been in a long time. And now we got a 30-year bond auction this afternoon at 1 o'clock. So we'll just have to see what happens to gold. I think we're at a make or break moment. We do have the Fed next week, so I'll be watching that. But, if gold is off, $40 today, I'm just probably going to close out my miners and say, nice try, and reload once gold picks back up. But, it could be up $40 today. I have no idea. So we'll just wait for that. On the copper front, I would like you to keep Freeport-McMoRan, FCX, Southern Copper, Tech Resources, TECK. Keep those on your radar. I think they're going to be buy on the dip at a certain point. Obviously, we're seeing some kind of little correction in the resource and material space. So I want to be ready if and when that makes a turn. So just keep those on the radar. If you're new to the channel, thanks for stopping by. Please hit the subscribe button and the alarm bell. I will do my best to make it worth your while, giving you a lot of actionable levels and a way for you to focus on your execution. I think if you do that, you'll become a better trader, giving you objective levels to shoot against and come up with better trades. Also, check over in the show notes for links to the blog site and how to register for all my content. That would be great to have you join our community. And of course, thank you to all the regular subscribers. What I want to do today is quickly go through the indexes and FATMAAN names. Not a lot of movement yesterday, so not a ton to talk about. And what I'm going to do today is just limit the pre-market to a video. I'm not going to try to come up with a lot of commentary that could be null and void as soon as the number prints. I'm going to treat this just like a Fed announcement kind of thing. There's going to be the print at 8:30. Then there's going to be an hour of knee-jerk reaction, and then watch as it settles in to the morning trade, and then we'll kind of know the lay of the land. And then if I see something significant or a pattern emerges after the print, I will come out with something mid-morning for a little guidance if I see something that warrants commenting on. I think in general, if the print comes out really hot, it's going to be explained away. Well, we knew it was going to be hot because it's base effects and we all know about the reopening. I think the real hard one to explain is if there's a downside surprise. That would have a lot of people wondering what's going on. Like, we're supposed to be having this big reopening, right? And shortages everywhere and inflation everywhere you look and all this stuff. If it's a belly flop, I couldn't even tell you what would happen to equities. I don't know if they'd view that as good or that would generate a giant red bar. And really, that's why I elected not to try to put on any hedging kind of thing. I just don't know which way it's going to go. So I don't have a ton of equity exposure. You know, I've got some commodity exposure in, you know, corn and coffee and sugar, and I've got the gold miners that are sucking wind right now. But I don't have a ton of individual names. I've got Yeti, that's been doing great. Got out of the Fastly trade, blah, blah, blah. So I'm not loaded to the gills with equities. So I chose not to put on any kind of a big hedge. So we'll just have to wait and see. So let's go through this real quick. SPY 2 hour made a little attempt at a breakout, then a weak close right down to 421.50. I think that's your pivot for today. Now, of course, you know, when the print comes, it's going to be at 8:30. So, you know, it's really not going to be actionable for you at home watching. You know, at 8:30, what are you going to do? You know, go try and buy an option or something. So it is what it is at this point. I think the key locations to watch are this gap and breaking out. So sitting right there at 421.50. Here's just the detail back into this trading range between 421.50 and call it 422.75. We've been trapped in that range. I would think that today after the print, something's going to happen. We're either going to break out or break down. So key off of that. I think it's been interesting on the Qs. We've had falling bond yields now for, you know, several weeks, and that has not really provided a giant catalyst for the Qs as you'd expect. So again, up here, not really being able to take out this level here at 339.50, sitting back here at 337. I think that's as good a pivot as any for today. Got a little minor level at 336. But as I talked about yesterday, I think if there were a big pivot point, I think it's 334, because I think anything above this, anything above 334 keeps that uptrend intact with rising, you know, a rising trend. You drop below 334, then you've got a lower low compared to this low here. And then I think you would fall quickly down to 332. So I'm going to be watching 334 carefully. And if that holds, if we get a move down to 334 that holds, I think that would be a good place to try a long. Here's just the exploded view with 334 being here. And here's your 332 level, and then you've got a gap, and then you've got another gap here. So, you know, there could be some volatility in here between 337 and 334, you know, or if we go the other way, break out. But I think any kind of move in here between 337 and 334, I'd be willing to write that off as noise, but I don't think you could ignore a move below 334. So that would be my level of, hey, things are different, and this whole move up here would then be called into question if we broke below that support level. IWM got a nice uptrend channel. We had a down day yesterday. If you're in IWM or watching it, you don't want to see this channel break and a move down out of the channel. That would indicate, you know, corrective activity. If we look at the 30-minute chart, I've got the, you know, a comparable channel here. And for me, 230 is the bogey number. Comes down to 230, down at the bottom of the channel and holds. You've got dual support there. You've got lateral support at 230, and you've got trend line support. It's got to hold right there. If 230 doesn't hold, I think from a tactical standpoint, you can get short at 230 and look for a move to 228. Then you've got a dollar gap here, and then you get into more heavy support at this 226.25 level right here with this large volume over price bar. But that's all down the road. I think really first off this morning is 230 on the downside as a support level, as a pivot point. And remember, the all-time high I have is 234. So if we were to go the other way and break out, we'd be in blue sky territory. So that'll be a real interesting one to watch. Running through Facebook, running through FATMAAN, Facebook lost this 332 yesterday. That had to be disappointing to the bulls. Why? Because this breakout now looks fake. So now the pivot becomes 330. That's got to hold, or it's down to 326 and possibly 324. So that's a really, really important level for Facebook. If it recaptures 332, I think that's a buy. You just remember our central tenets. Recapturing a level from below is a buy. Losing a level from above is a sell. So what you want to see if you're bullish is for 330 to hold and then recapture 332, which would open the door for a run back to the prior high up at let's just call it 338. So kind of an important level here for Facebook. And notice the large volume over price bar here, giving that support at 324. Not making a prediction or looking ahead, but if you lost 324, something's really different. Something's going on, and there would be some major corrective activity, because then you'd be into this void, and then you're coming way back. So Facebook needs to hold the line. Apple, I dropped in a little channel here. It is taking its sweet time, rolling higher, but not very impulsively. What I want to see to get kind of re-engaged in Apple is a move above 128, and that corresponds to convergence of the 20 and 50 on the daily chart. You get above that, then you've got some good support below, and then you got a legitimate reason to try a long, out in time and see if this thing breaks higher. But for that to happen, we've got to have a positive response today out of this CPI print, and then a positive response next week out of FOMC. Aside from that, it may chop around here or even pull back. So those are the levels. Got to hold 126.50, and I would consider a move above 128 as being important. Tesla, whole bunch of nothing. Same as yesterday. Got to hold 595. Got to hold 595 for the bulls. Below that, you could see a pullback down to the bottom of the channel, down to the bottom of this box, down at 570, 560 range. So that's going to be an important level for Tesla. Microsoft, oscillating in this range between 253 and 256. I think you can buy 253 if that holds and look for a move back up to the top of the gap. If you get a move into the gap, I think you got to be a buyer at 256 on that break into the gap, $6 wide up to 262. That's a great risk reward. And we've seen how these stocks, once they break into a gap, have a tendency to fill. So if we get a positive reaction this morning and you see, Microsoft make some big move, be ready. Make sure you got an alarm set at 256 and be ready to rock and roll. If you've been engaged the whole time or are actively trading this, in my mind, 253 needs to hold. Otherwise, then you're coming back down the side of the mountain, back into 252, and possibly even 250. So those are the key levels. Amazon had a decent day. It was up 0.5% when everything else was thrashing around. We said 3250 was important. It crossed that hurdle, has not looked back, so I think that's a positive. The next level here at 3300 is important. We had a little, I'll call that a rejection there. Back here, rejection, back here, rejection, back here, fail. So that's a big level. I mean, if it can clear 3300, I like that long. I think that will show us that price is proving that it can get through that major pivot at 3250, and then taking out these resistance points along the way. And you can see over here, when it dropped that fast, there is not a lot of volume over price resistance. So I think above this 3300, I think you could see some traction develop if price can jump above that level, because I think the overhead resistances start to abate up there, whereas down here you just got a ton of lateral resistance almost at every level that has been really slowing down Amazon in the past. So key off of 3300 today. I think it would be pretty bearish if it lost 3250. So that $50 increment is what I would be focused on today. Google still in the uptrend. Key off of 2400 today. Above 2400, I think you can look for 2430. If you drop out of this channel, that would not be so hot. So I would still be looking for long entries on Google. I wouldn't even think about trying to get cute with any shorts unless and until this channel breaks. While it's inside the channel, it's going to be bullish, and I would continue to have a bullish posture on that and look for higher prices. Netflix, we got a little movement yesterday down to the bottom of the box. Now we're coming up on a critical kind of juncture here. If we were to break 485 today, you've got two prior lows down here at 480 that there could be, a breach of this level, go down and tag 480, back test these lows, and then that hold, or we keep going. I'll just show you I think I got the daily here. Yeah, so let's look at the daily. Here's those prior lows at 480. If that doesn't hold, then you got 470, and then that's the super big level. That's the super big level. And if you haven't been messing around with Netflix, still put an alarm at 470, because that's going to be, the super giant pivot from this $90 range. You lose 470, you're way down there in the 300s. If it holds, that's a great long location, because then you're looking towards making a move back up to the top of the box, and that would be a great trade in itself. So 470 is a super big level. I'd like you to put an alarm there, whether you decide to actively trade the shorter time frames right here to try and get that $20 move. That's totally up to you. Semis, nothing day, consolidating here between 248.50 and 247. I think those are your levels. You break above 248.50, I think it's a buy, and I think you look towards 252. If you lose 247, I think you'll probably come back in here to 244, and then your really big level is 242.50, which we've been keying off of a long time. So just looking at it structurally, I mean, it looks like I mean, it's not a perfect bear flag, but this flat structure here looks kind of suspicious because it hasn't even been able to break above this 248.50, trapped in this very narrow range. I think the next move will be significant, like at least a few dollars. I think a breakout here, you go up to 250, 250 pretty fast. And if you break below 247, I think you go to 244 pretty fast. So there's some energy being built up in this little flag. So I would be ready for a move in either direction. Now what I want to do is quickly move on to airlines and give you some levels because I'm seeing some developments here in the airline sector. And I think as I go through these charts, you're going to see a pattern emerge. I'll point some things out, but you can connect the dots as well. American. This looks like a double top to me. We've got a peak here, high momentum, high RSI, come up for another peak, much lower momentum, lower RSI. I think that looks like a double top. We've got the moving averages still bullishly stacked, but we've traded away from this 25.50 now for 4 or 5 days in a row. If you got a little move back up, might be an interesting short idea. But as it stands now, my expectation, although the conviction isn't really strong, I think it probably favors moving back towards the bottom of the of this range, unless price can take out 25.50. And if you're a bull, that's the level I would alarm. And if it breaks out here, I would buy it. Alaska, RSI bleeding off, momentum coming out. Got a big ledge here. Look at this void below 64. I mean, there's nobody home under here. And now we've got price coming back in below all the moving averages. I mean, below the 50, the 20, the 8. Set yourself an alarm at 64 for either it holding and the market getting all bullish, where you'd have a nice long entry, or if turbulence develops, you got a short with a first move down to 58. But I think at that point, I think the 200, you may get a little reaction, but I think that would break because there is not anybody home down here that I think would be, stopping it. Your first big level of support is down in the low 50s. So be ready for that. Set your alarm at 64. Here's Copa. I think this is a Colombian airline. Same kind of deal. RSI coming off, now down below 50. PPO going out of town. You might have to use your imagination a little bit, but you've got kind of a head and shoulders top look. You got price below all the moving averages and now challenging the 200. Look at this air pocket from 56 to 75. That's $20. Set yourself an alarm at 75 and be ready if that thing fails. I looked at the option chain. It's not the best I've ever seen, but if you can set a limit order and get a decent fill, if that thing breaks, that's a trade you can stay in for a while and see if you don't get that move all the way down to 56. Because like I said, there's nobody down here. That move was so fast. there's no technical support there. So set your alarm at 75, and hey, if it holds, then you either buy it or do nothing. Support is support until it breaks. All I'm pointing out is we're getting to an actionable objective level, and I think that's the most important thing, to have your alarm set, because if things go south, you'll never find them, you'll never remember, and the move will be over. So you've got to be loaded with a lot of alarms. And then once the alarms go off, then you're in the driver's seat. Oh, well, I already got enough shorts. Or, wow, I want to get short airlines, and this looks like the best one. So you take it. I think if you have the alarm set, you're in the driver's seat. If you don't, then you're hunting for setups after the fact. So anyways, JetBlue, same deal. Momentum coming out, RSI bleeding out. We're sitting on a ledge here at 1850 with trendline support. From a technical standpoint, you're at dual support. You got trendline support, you got lateral support. That's supposed to hold. If it doesn't, then you're coming down to the 200 and probably going even lower, because again, there's a void here. And as it stands now, price is already below all the fast moving averages. And the last thing to hold it up are this lateral support and the trend line. It's just a critical spot. I would set your alarm at 1850 and see what happens. Southwest, very much the same deal. RSI bleeding out, momentum going the other way, now down below the zero line. That's the bearish regime. RSI below 50, that's the bearish regime. You've got a ledge here at 57.50. You've got price below all the fast moving averages, and you got nobody home down below with a big void, and the 200 not till 52. So set yourself an alarm at 57.50 and be ready. Spirit Airlines, broken record, same deal. Momentum fade, or RSI fade, momentum fade. Price coming into a ledge here at 34, below all the moving averages. Descending right triangle. If it breaks 34, I think you're going to find the 200 relatively quickly. That's 10 or 12% drop, 34 down to 30. So 4 out of 30. That's over 10% drop. And just like all the other ones, no technical support here. I mean, just a big void. So this 34 is a big level. United. This one looks a lot more like American, where it's been strong. Nice uptrend. Came up to this 60 level where we had a momentum peak and an RSI peak, and then we came up to basically the same level, but at lower momentum and lower RSI. That looks like a double top to me. I wouldn't do anything with it here, but I would alarm the 50, which is at 55.50. Yeah, 55.50 right here. If this uptrend breaks and it loses both the uptrend and the 50, I think you're coming back down to 50 down here for the 200. And then there would be a big moment of truth at 49, which would be these prior lows and this support level. So I would alarm 55, something like that. So building on the idea that we had yesterday when we were looking at the steel sector, birds of a feather flock together. I've just given you, 5, 6, 7 charts of the airlines that more or less all look the same. Now that I cherry pick them to a certain extent, if you look at Delta, if you look at, there are a couple other foreign airlines that look better. Delta didn't look as bad as the rest, but there's always going to be outperformers and underperformers. My point in this exercise this morning is to show you the airline group as a whole is coming up to a critical spot. And they're either all going to break or they're all going to hold. That's the bottom line. And what's more interesting about it is the big voids that are below. I think those would be really good shorts if those things break, because I think they would go fast. And so I want you to be ready. Set those alarms. Be ready. Those locations would also be good buys. If the market stabilizes and airlines catch a bid, you're going to have great entry locations on the long side, because all these setups aren't shorts until they break. And we're right down at support, and support is support until it breaks. So they may end up being good long locations. We'll just have to wait and see. But be ready with some alarms. Bring it into focus, and we'll see what happens. So just to recap real quick, choppy price action ahead of this CPI print, and we've also got jobless claims at 8:30. We're going to have an hour of knee-jerk reaction before the market opens at 9:30. We'll just have to see how the dust settles, whether it's a non-event or a big bull move or they pull the rug. We're just going to have to wait and see. And then after that happens, I will swing back with a note of anything of importance that I see or anything that we can do after the fact. So thanks for your time. I hope it helped. This is Chris Buss with Trader's Profit Compass. Have a good morning of trade, and talk to you next time.